That's right. It's your boy, Anthony Gallo, on the Fan, New York City, and we have a lot to get to. The number to call is always 888-808-1019. And I thought I was coming on preparing a funeral. I thought tonight was going to be another one of those miserable shows where I allow you to vent. I act as your sports therapist. But tonight is a celebration because the Knicks are back in this series. And I'm not trying to touch the money, but they're going to win this series. And I'm not going to lie. I jumped off the boat. I was rose at the end of the Titanic. I was kicking all the positive Knicks fans off the door. But we are here. I came into the night thinking if they could just get this one, I will be back to being confident that they can win this series. And not only did they win tonight, they did it in ugly fashion. They did it down big in typical 2025 Knicks fashion. And they did it on the backs of a guy that at the end of the second quarter, I was shipping to Siberia, and Karl-Anthony Towns. And all of this is to say that all it takes is one series of good play, and it can look completely different. But I truly believe this Knicks team is going to win this series. 888-808-1019. They come into tonight, backs against the wall, making lineup changes, something Thibs has never done. Go back to his time in Chicago. He's never done it. He's never once rocked the boat. Going into tonight, I had no faith that Karl-Anthony Towns was going to be the guy that leads us. And things changed. Things changed very quickly. And it felt after the Karl-Anthony Towns overturned offensive foul call that should not have been overturned, that the game got out of hand very quickly. It was close at that point. And the Pacers go on that 20 run. Miles McBride early in the first, 3 fouls. Karl-Anthony Towns early, 3 fouls. 4 fouls for Brunson. The last one, the most idiotic in the first half. Everything was against this team. They had to play Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright coming out of the second quarter. 2 guys who ended up being on the floor when this team made its biggest run. On the back of Karl-Anthony Towns. And yes, you may say I'm overreacting to one game. I am not. We could talk about how great Tyrese Halliburton is, and he is. He has not played that great in this series. This series has turned off of the backs of a Aaron Naismith fourth quarter that is unheard of, that we will never see again, making shots with his eyes closed, not even setting himself, knocking down shots, and a freak bounce at the end of the game. And yes, Pascal Siakam is a borderline all-star, superstar type in this league, but it took a big game from him in Game 2 in another Knicks disaster. But even with saying that, and shout out to Charles Barkley on the pregame, saying that everyone was getting ahead of themselves, saying this series was over, including myself. I was a mess Friday night. I was waving the white flag. I'm a coward. I'll admit that. But I'm back. But he said everyone got ahead of themselves, acting like the Knicks got blown out. The Knicks played awful in Game 2 and lost by, 6 points? 5 points. It took an Aaron Naismith miracle fourth quarter for the Pacers to win Game 1. And tonight, where the Knicks did not play well, Brunson played his worst playoff game as a New York Knick. Everyone was in foul trouble. Scott Foster, the supposed extender of series, got this assignment wrong, and every call went the way of the Pacers. It looked like Tom Thibodeau was getting shoved in a locker by Rick Carlisle, an NBA championship coach. But these guys came out when everything looked gloomy, when everyone was giving up. I don't care who you were talking to. Halfway through that second quarter, we were all giving up. And they managed to dig deep, win this game. And when the Knicks play their best game, when their players are playing their best, it is better than the Pacers' best. That's a fact. It was a fact in the regular season. It's been a fact this entire series. And the funny part is they haven't played their best yet. Game one, they dominated for 38, 40 minutes until Aaron Naismith shot the Pacers back into that game. In game two, they played their best for 8 minutes and almost pulled the comeback back. Or pulled the comeback off, however you want to say it. And tonight, they didn't even need to play their best. Yes, Karl-Anthony Towns played his best. That fourth quarter is the best 12 minutes he's had as a New York Knick. 20 points in the fourth. This man went out there and did what he's been supposed to do, what he was meant to be as a Knick, to carry this team at moments when Jalen Brunson could not. That's the vision. To be honest, the way they played that fourth quarter was exactly the vision I saw in October when this trade was made. Big moments from Karl-Anthony Towns, defensive stops from Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson shutting things down when it's needed. Captain Clutch. I was out on this team after Friday night. I felt embarrassed. After the first half tonight, I was out on this team. But I never wavered from the fact that if they could win tonight, I felt good about the series. Because now, they're not fighting for their lives. Game 4 is a must-win. Yes, don't get me wrong. But they are not fighting for their lives. They will win. They will play another game after that. They will live to see another day. And remember, last year, this Pacers team was down 2-0 and was able to come back and beat this Knicks team. Beat them in a Game 7. This is a healthy Knicks team, although Towns and Josh Hart had a little bit of a scare in that fourth quarter. Both looked fine. This was what we wanted. Josh Hart, big boards, big stops. Karl-Anthony Towns hitting huge buckets, dunking on people, 30-foot three-pointers. OG Anunoby, a huge block. Mikal Bridges. And you know what? Listen, his game was not pretty tonight. But I will say this. At no moment did I feel like Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, but he had a good, I felt he played overall very good tonight. But at no point did I feel like Mikal Bridges got away from himself tonight. The defense was there all night. It is tough to sit here and pick apart their three wing defenders when they have two below-average defenders on their team. So, yes, it's going to be tough to defend a team. And I heard somebody call in the Laurie show and say that everyone on this Pacers team is a good defender. That's not true. It's not true. So shout out to Laurie for pushing back on that. Tyrese Halliburton is not a good defender. He's essentially a longer Jalen Brunson in that aspect. It's just harder to hunt him out when the other four guys in their starting lineup are good defenders. TJ McConnell is not a good defender. When Jalen Brunson's able to play, because he's not in foul trouble, he makes TJ McConnell look like a doorstop. A turnstile. I don't know if doorstop is the right way there, but we got there eventually. Obi Toppin is not a good defender. But it is tough to get on these guys who put the effort in, like an OG, like a Mikal, like Josh Hart, when your two best players are below average guys and you need them out there. It's tough to run your best lineup when Miles McBride is taking 3 stupid fouls in a matter of a minute. But this team overcame all of that. Thibs overcame his stubbornness tonight, which is the biggest mind-blowing aspect of all of this. They played 15 different lineups tonight. 7 lineups they hadn't played at all this season. And then there was a short period where they played an 8, if you want to include that. So really 8. But 15 different lineups tonight. Thibs pulled out every trick he had. And it worked. And at times, the players have to execute. And we will break down the problems tonight too that this Knicks team had. One of them, and I don't want to focus on it just now, but one of them, that Miles McBride, when Deuce picked up those 3 fouls, at some point, somebody on the court has to realize, maybe this is Mitchell Robinson, because he was the one on Miles Turner, that you can't switch and put Miles Turner and Deuce as a matchup. And Deuce also has to realize he can't take 2 off-ball fouls. They didn't call those fouls both ways because when it happened the other way, they called the offensive foul on Karl-Anthony Towns. But they cannot use the refs as an excuse. When you get the doors blown off you by 20, the refs are not an excuse. And you have to adjust. But they are going to win this series. They've proven they cannot be counted out. This is their 3rd win of 20-plus points. Being down 20-plus points in the fourth quarter. Or not in the fourth quarter. In the playoffs, excuse me. So 3 wins of 20-plus point deficits overcame by this Knicks team in the playoffs. When you look at this Pacers team, all I've heard is Team of Destiny, all of this stuff. They played an injured Bucks team in the first round for the 2nd year in a row. They played a Cavs team that was injured early and choked away multiple big leads. It wasn't like Aaron Naismith had to shoot themselves back into the game or a lucky bounce from Tyrese Halliburton to tie the game. They are the ones that come back. And for a Team of Destiny to blow this kind of lead, that's going to chop down their confidence a bit. This might be the straw that breaks their back. And all this Knicks team needed was a little bit of confidence. In my opinion, the way they ended Game 2, I thought was the confidence builder, but they clearly came out flat tonight. Yes, the whistles did not help. Those early foul trouble situations to Towns and Brunson and Deuce hurt them. But they still did not look like they matched the moment. At the end of the game, they matched the moment. Brunson, part of it, soft fouls, dumb fouls also on his part, but soft fouls on the way of the whistle, the refs, had his worst game in the playoffs as a New York Knick, and they managed to win. And the starting 5 that all we heard about, and yes, factually has been awful, closed the game out when it mattered most. Outside of that one possession where they subbed in Miles McBride and Mitch and then took them out immediately after that because they had the 2 timeouts because we know Thibs does not want to use his timeouts. They closed the game out. And defensively, when this team is dug in, when this team understands the moment, there's no better team in the league. When OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Josh Hart are locked in, it's tough for teams to score, to overcome that. That OG Anunoby block late in the fourth quarter, perfect example. Throw that up there with the 2 big Mikal Bridges plays against the Celtics. And make no mistake, this is the same Knicks team that blew the doors off those Celtics. Those reigning NBA champion Celtics. And I don't want to hear about the Jason Tatum injury because they were about to be up 3-1 when he was healthy. They are going to win this series. 888-808-1019. You can always hit me on the socials. Pico de _Gallo on X and Pico de Gallo 24 on IG. But let's get to your calls. Moose in Jamaica. What's going on, Moose? Good morning.
What up, Gallo? I've been listening to you for a while. Every time I don't go out on a weekend, I'm tuned in. But,
all right. I feel bad, though, because it makes me sound like, I am the second option here, though. I would like to be the first option.
It's not even that. Like, It's not even that. Like, I heard your story about how you had to get back from the Mets game.
Oh, no, dude.
Like,
I left so
it's
early
crazy.
to get into work today, but I'll let you finish your point. I left so early to make sure I could watch the Met and the Knicks games from the office today. And because of that moment, I left way too early and got here way too early.
Like, it's technically a typical night in Friday night in New York City. We've all had those stories.
I know.
Real quick, I'll spend 2 seconds on this. One time in 2012, while my boys were living with me, we were partying in my house to pregame, then went to Brooklyn. And then at like 9:30, I basically drank like half a handle of Cardi in like
goodness.
a big golf cup. And I fell asleep after throwing up in the street on the train at like 9:30. Next thing I know, I'm in a car at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. My boys were living with me. I just woke up in the car and went upstairs. I don't even know what happened. They recorded me a couple times.
I've had my moments where I've fallen asleep and ended up in a different borough.
That's what I live in Queens.
Yeah, well,
I fell asleep in Brooklyn. They went till fucking midnight. I don't even know what happened. But real quick, I don't know. I told Emmanuel earlier today. I was like, yo, OG's got to take more shots, make more shots.
Yes.
I don't know if he heard me. I don't know if the coaching staff
He
told him
clearly
he gotta
heard
be
you.
more aggressive. It's like, not even that, but it's more so just because every time the Knicks need to come back inch by inch or to cement the full comeback to tie the score, OG was impeccable. He was vital in that. So the Knicks are going to need a third option every time.
Right, and I'll let you finish this point. I really felt like OG at one point looked like, and it was the third quarter, he looked like the only guy who wanted to shoot the ball. And he had a bad game too. But I really feel like he is one of those guys. I'm not going to say Cat's the X factor, because when you're one of the two leading guys on the team, you can't be an X factor. So I really feel like OG, when he plays at the level he played tonight, that is the X factor. That's where the Knicks separate themselves from being a middle-of-the-road playoff team to a title contender.
Honestly, and that's all I really had to say. I mean, like, just the whole perspective of whether the offense is like essentially what happened, if you ask me, like middle third quarter when both teams started shooting, because the previous 2 games, both teams scored over 110 to close to 120 points, obviously the overtime game. This game was a little scoring relative to that. So I think both teams are kind of gassed. They kind of lost their legs. I don't even know what happened, where they started breaking shot after shot, making an occasional one.
I think it's as simple as
the defense.
And I appreciate the call, Moose. I think it's as simple as the Knicks early on tonight. You see it. The Pacers had 30 in the first and 28 in the second. The Knicks really locked in defensively, because offensively they were not great in the third quarter. Yes, it went from a 13-point lead at half to a 10-point lead, but they were not great offensively in that third quarter. I felt defensively they really locked in. Part of that, and I was ripping Thibs for this, coming out of the second quarter with Shamet and DeLon Wright. Part of that was those two guys being on the court. Those guys gave the Knicks a shot tonight. DeLon Wright, and I made the joke because it was more to take a shot at Cat, which blew up in my face, obviously, that DeLon Wright was given an effort. And, he had a couple tip passes in the second quarter. But that third quarter, he made some plays. And at the beginning of the fourth, that short period where Shamet and Wright were out there, they impacted the game. And that impacted the defensive end. Everyone on this Knicks team outside of Cat and Towns can play defense. Cat and Towns. Cat and Brunson can play defense. Tonight, they got an effort from every single person who stepped on the court. I could point to one moment from everybody on this Knicks team that had an impactful moment. Steve in Rockland, what's going on, Steve?
Anthony, was there a Jalen Brunson slam dunk sighting tonight?
Was there? Did he dunk the ball tonight?
I think he dunked the ball.
He
dunked the ball. It's the drive where the lane just opened up. And I'm pretty sure. Anyway, never mind that.
I will find it because I'm very interested. I got to be honest, I was a wreck tonight watching this game. Nervous, so I probably didn't even notice it. That had to have been in the third quarter, I feel like.
Okay. Anyway, just the idea that if I would have told you, don't worry, the Knicks are going to score 36 points and Towns is going to have 20 of them in the fourth quarter, you would have laughed at me. Now, let me ask you another question.
I would have. If you would have, and Steve, I'll let you ask that question. If you would have told me that, I would have laughed at you. All you have to do is go to my Twitter. I was killing Towns tonight. I was shipping him to Siberia. At one point in the second quarter, I said, if I don't see this guy the rest of the night, I'll be okay. And it's got to be one of the funniest, the freezing cold takes in my life.
There you go. And how about this? Wasn't there one of his threes where the guy on Indiana did not give him room to land, and they did not call it?
That and I'm looking because you're way ahead of me on that. I was looking for when that was. I think it was the 30-foot jumper. It could have been the other 3-pointer he hit, but that, in my opinion, is a foul. And if I'm not wrong, I think it's a flagrant foul now. And it was Siakam because what happened was he came around the screen. Turner was on him. Siakam stepped up, and they didn't call it. I will say this. If they called that on the Knicks that late in that game, in that situation, I would have been annoyed. So I wasn't losing my mind, but that could have been a 4-point play.
I mean, at least that's the way I saw that. I thought that was
I agree. I saw it the same way.
I thought that was clear cut.
No,
that was pretty clear cut.
To be fair, though, they have not made that call consistently in this series. And the one time they made that call was, I think it was game 1. Tyrese Halliburton kicked Jalen Brunson, and they called it on Brunson. Otherwise, they have not made that call in this series, and it's happened a few times, specifically against the Knicks.
Yeah, well, this was, you know what? I'm curious how much of this can we take? This is because to go down 20 and to win the game, I'm like, couldn't they just do this the whole game?
Well, maybe they just need to start the game. Maybe they just need to start the game down 20. And I appreciate the call, Steve. Maybe that's it. Maybe just tell the Knicks, don't show them the scoreboard, and just tell them you're down 20. I will say this, and Steve asks a good question. How much of this can we take into the next game? I think you could take it because the Knicks have done this 3 times now in the playoffs. They were down also, not 20 points, but they were down double digits multiple times against the Pistons and came back. They didn't win every single one of them, but they've come back multiple times, down double digits, and been able to do this. And I don't want to hear about how the Pacers can do that, and no lead is safe with the Pacers, but it's not the same thing with the Knicks. I don't want to hear about it. We're getting a lot to get to. 888-808-1019 before we go to break. And we will dive deeper into this because she's a big Mets fan. But I want to say a very happy birthday to my mother. May 26th, 1960. She probably hates that I just said the year. But it is her birthday today. And we will dive more into that. I will give you her 5 favorite Met players of all time. And we will get into more of the Knicks. I do want to dive into we'll get back to your calls, obviously, 888-808-1019. I do want to dive on the other side of the glass into what the Knicks cannot do. What they cannot do if they want to win this series. All that, Anthony Gallo on the Fan till 6 a.m.